Israel's Prime Minister has called the recognition of a Palestinian state by countries including Australia disgraceful and sheer madness. Speaking at the UN, Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to continue military operations in Gaza, telling Hamas to lay down weapons and release Israeli hostages immediately. Let's get more on this now by speaking live to the chief executive of the MirYam Institute, an IDF veteran, Benjamin Anthony. Benjamin, thanks for your time on Sky News. What did you make of Mr. Netanyahu's address to the UN?
Thank you for having me. I thought that the Prime Minister mustered all of the rhetorical force that he uniquely can. I think that he pressed Israel's case as he is uniquely able to do. I thought that the walkout of several of the delegates really was emblematic of the unwillingness of nations to hear truth spoken to them, even if they're difficult truths. It's extremely lamentable, and it shows that there is a separate standard put aside for representatives of the state of Israel, whereby even when they are ready, willing, able, and capable of putting forward their viewpoint for the consideration of the masses seem completely unwilling to listen to what it is they have to impart. So overall, a very strong speech, not a surprise when it comes to the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. And I think that his focus will now be set towards his upcoming meeting with President Trump.
He specifically criticised Australia and other nations, saying the recognition of Palestinian statehood sent a message that, quote, murdering Jews pays off. Is that comment fair?
Well, I think that if there was any backbone and principle underpinning the foreign policy, not only of Albanese, but also Starmer in UK, the country in which I grew up, Macron of France, and other countries, they would look at the crimes against humanity that were carried out by Hamas on October the 7th, and the tale of those crimes that continues until this very day, namely the kidnapping of 252 hostages and the murdering of 1,200 innocents on October the 7th, 2023. And those world leaders would say, unless Hamas releases the hostages, several of whom, 20 of whom still languish alive inside the dungeons of Gaza, and a further 38 of whom are no longer alive, unless Hamas returns those hostages to Israel, and unless Hamas lays down its weapons and vows to relinquish power within the Gaza Strip, then the governments of Australia, France, Great Britain, and so on will announce in the United Nations that they will remove from the docket of their foreign policy priorities any call for the establishment of a state for the Palestinian Arabs. That's what should have happened. Instead, we've had the inverse, a bizarre inverting of reality, whereby these governments have said, unless the state of Israel stops doing that which it must in order to bring back our hostages and to bring about an end to the terror threat emanating from Hamas inside the Gaza Strip, then these westernized democratic governments will recognize a state for the Palestinian Arabs, which is tantamount to an award and a reward for the terrorism that was wrought against Israelis on October 7th. So I think it's highly lamentable, and it shows there is certainly a different price and different standard applied when it comes to the subject of Israel and its safety and security. But I'm very pleased that the Prime Minister was very defiant about that, expressing the idea as ridiculous and one that he will not allow to happen.
Some would say it's a slightly warped view, isn't it? Because those Western leaders who've recognised Palestinian statehood have made it very clear that can only happen without Hamas. They've also, on several occasions, absolutely abhorred what happened on October 7. And they've certainly said that they want the conflict to end just to get aid to those that need it. So they're not backing Hamas in any way, are they? So do you think Prime Minister Netanyahu was still right to be so defiant and not offer any conciliatory tone whatsoever?
I do think the Prime Minister was absolutely right to be defiant. The two-state solution, as is commonly understood, was nonsensical at the point of being birthed. It was stillborn.
What's the alternative then?
Well, I personally would like to see the Prime Minister of the State of Israel and the President of the United States of America move with much more deliberate force and direction towards a vision that was put forward, often not spoken about, but put forward very, very clearly by President Donald Trump, namely the voluntary relocation of the Gazans out of the Gaza Strip so that we can end the situation wherein the restive population in Gaza continues to reconstitute and replenish the terror ranks of Hamas, as is currently going on today. and so that we don't have that population proximate to our borders. Remember, Egypt played a pivotal role in the ability of Hamas when it came to its launching of the terror attack, the horrific terror attack on October the 7th. Much of that know-how, contraband, those munitions came through the Sinai Peninsula into the Gaza Strip. And I think that Egypt should be made and leaned upon by the international community to uphold its responsibility, A, to take in and absorb a displaced population. They're eminently well-resourced to do that, given that they neighbour the Gaza Strip and they actually share a border with Gaza. Israel is not the only country to have a border with the Gaza Strip. And I think that there should be much more international pressure placed on Egypt's responsibilities, just a scintilla of the amount of pressure that is placed upon the State of Israel, which is really the country that fell victim to the horrific attack of October the 7th. So there has been a different vision put forward. I would like to see the President of the United States and the Prime Minister join forces and bring that about. Incidentally, one last word on that. In any other conflict, in the face of a displaced population, you see the international community implore and then applaud neighbouring and non-neighbouring states to absorb the displaced. You see that, for example, with Turkey in regard to the Syrian civil war, which is a neighbouring state, obviously, of Syria, and of Germany, a non-neighbouring state of Syria. You see it, for example, with Ukraine. Yeah. Poland was implored and applauded for absorbing, the same with the State of Israel. Such should be applied to the Egyptians in this case, and indeed the international community.
OK, we've run out of time. We appreciate you coming on the show, though. Benjamin Anthony, the Chief Executive of the MirYam Institute and an IDF veteran. Appreciate your time. Thank you.